I want to reiterate the thank you to Vicki Payton, Isabel Bolo, Ben Wills, and Liz Alpert, who have provided invaluable support to make this happen. An extra special thanks goes out to Marnie Klein and Kirk Banton, who have tirelessly worked to make all of the AV and communications run smoothly and in an accessible manner. I also want to thank the former program directors, Rachel Zacharias and Liz Dietz, who were instrumental in the planning of this conference up until their departures to law and grad school this summer. Congrats to them. I would not be standing here, as Eric mentioned, if it were not for the generous support of the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Rice family, and other private donors who provided the support for the new Bioethics and the Humanities Initiative, and thereby provided support that brought me to the Hastings Center such that I'm standing here today. I also want to give a very special thank you to Eric Perrins. It's been an absolute joy to work with you and to learn from you. We're everyone so lucky. I want to thank all of the Hastings Center staff and research scholars. If you didn't already know it, the team there is phenomenal. They're amazing people, they're fantastic researchers, and in my mind, they're living proof that bioethics has a unique and profound potential to assist with and even improve the theory and practice of medicine and the many institutions tied to it. I want to thank the speakers. Getting the chance to put together a dream team like this is a very rare occurrence, and I can't wait to see all that comes out of this conference. Thank you to all of the staff here at Brooklyn Law School, from the people who are serving the food and refreshments to the people who clean this beautiful room. Thank you so much for your time and your labor. One of the many goals of this conference is to prioritize accessibility as a principle for both the practice and the theory of academic engagement. In that spirit, I want to encourage everyone to use this space as needed, whether that means standing, sitting. If you can't hear someone at the front, if something is going on, if something's blocking your vision, please interrupt and let us know. It's more important that everyone can be engaged than things to keep going as they're planned. If you're tweeting, our Twitter handle is @Hastings Center. That's @HASTINGSCENTER. I also want to acknowledge here at the beginning of this conference that the land on which we gather is the traditional, unceded, and occupied territory of the Canarsie and Lenape peoples. And now, a couple words. And what follows should not really be heard as my own words, but as those of Eric and I, since they have arisen quite directly out of joint conversations over the last year. All infelicities and the bad ideas are my own entirely, naturally. At the core of every normative ethical theory, every theory that guides one to determine right from wrong, praiseworthy from blameworthy action, is a simple, profound assumption. Knowledge is not enough. Whether one sees the moral universe in terms of virtues, duties, consequences, or cares, knowledge alone will not unlock this universe's secrets. It will not and cannot do so because the meaning, not to mention application of knowledge, is shaped by far more than it alone. Depending upon the theory, one needs practical wisdom, understanding, judgment, sensitivity, and humility, or perhaps all of the above. In Book 2 of the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle declares, "Our present inquiry does not aim, as others do, at study, for the purpose of our examination is not to know what virtue is, but to become good." This claim perhaps strikes modern academics and practitioners as strange. How can an inquiry make someone good? What path leads from knowing to being? On the contrary, is not the chasm between theory and praxis as old as philosophical and reflective thought itself? However one answers those questions, both the advent and the history of bioethics suggests that without critical reflection, those who take themselves to be good and do good too often become exemplars of the opposite. History teaches over and over again that the practice of medicine, and that of bioethics, must involve heeding the testimony of others, both past and present, and also being acutely concerned for the well-being of future generations. Put very simply, one cannot become good or do good without a critical engagement with all manner of subjugated knowledges. But even this will not be enough. If one takes the time to read through the terms of service agreement for one of the leading direct-to-consumer genetic testing companies in the world, 23andMe, which I might have, maybe you have, I don't know, you will find a remarkable line just a few pages in. This knowledge is irrevocable. This arresting phrase attests to an increasing recognition of the gravity of genomic knowledge and the increasing role it plays in shaping human life, in shaping medicine, in shaping the entire field of bioethics. On the one hand, genomic knowledge is certainly a gift, as Eric invited us to think about, creating novel insights into the genetic drivers of disease and into the geographical paths of our ancestors. On the other, it is a weight, creating new obligations, new forms of social classification, and new forms of surveillance, including the old forms of each it also reinforces. Thus, we're led to confront a fundamental question: how can we live well in the face of knowledge that can change the very criteria, conditions, and lived experience of life itself, including the very meaning of being well? How should we apply this knowledge, and how should we think about the tensions its value harbors and the disparate ends towards which it can be placed? Or, as we summarize such questions for this conference, what does it mean to be a good biocitizen? And by extension, to live in a good biocity, and even to practice good biopolitics. I'm not sure if that should be in quotation marks or not. By biocitizen, we follow scholars such as Nicholas Rose, Carlos Novas, and Dorothy Roberts, among many others, who refer to the ways in which being a citizen today in many contemporary industrial societies has become decisively influenced by developments in biology in general and genomics in particular. Among the developments that mark the age of the biocitizen are calls for everyone to become proactive managers of their health and to contribute ever more data about it in order to improve their future health states and that of their respective populations, including the global population. Death and disease are no longer conditions that befall us. We can instead engage in the lifelong proactive mitigation of health risk factors, energetically promoting conditions for long life. The biocitizen today, in other words, is invited to commune, conspire, and conduct their life for health and in the name of health. Furthermore, the responsibilities of biocitizenship are fundamentally shared, whether with respect to vaccination, washing one's hands, or testing one's genes. The biocitizen is understood as one who acts for all of us, as the current incarnation of the NIH's Precision Medicine Initiative is today aptly named. This conference aims to take a step back and ask, in what ways might biocitizenship promote human flourishing, and in what ways might it, or might it already be, thwarting it? What are the conditions that constitute and shape the biocitizen today, and how ought one act in light of these? It goes without saying, as Eric touched upon, it is common sense that health is assumed to be an ultimate, if unassailable, value. And millions of federal and billions of private dollars are staked on the future of genomic answers to problems dogging health outcomes. Yet, bioethics as a discipline, as a field, arose as a response to biomedical researchers and practitioners placing gains in knowledge above the value of the lives from which and through which that knowledge was gained. That is to say, the field emerged out of a response to injustice and as a witness to the lived testimony of those who suffered exclusions and tortures and deaths in the name of medical progress and knowledge building. Heeding not only the lessons of this history, but also our contemporary, increasingly fraught socio-political context. We wish to gain clarity on how genomics has shaped and is shaping lived experience and its possibilities. How, against the background and impacts of such knowledge, might we in fact be good biocitizens and better leverage genomics toward a life lived well in health for all of us?